Minnesota state law requires owners to keep their rental property fit for the use intended and to keep it in reasonable repair. Benefits to good maintenance and timely repairs are long-term tenants, good relationships with the city and neighbors, and your property will maintain its value. This segment will provide an overview of repairs and inspections. You'll hear common reasons why a unit would fail an inspection. We will also discuss a property owner's responsibilities related to lead paint.
Property owners are invested in property just like a stockholder is invested in stock. Property owners need to maintain their asset. That's watching over it and even periodic inspections on their own. They need to maintain things in a decent and safe and orderly condition.
When I initially began renting property, I thought about it as people would always need somewhere to live, and that I knew I wouldn't want to rent anything that I wouldn't want to live in myself. So as I acquired property, and even now as I acquire property, I know that if I couldn't live there, I wouldn't want them to live there. And so that makes me feel good that I'm providing homes for a family that they can be proud of.
A best practice idea for repairs is, first of all, get the repair done quickly. And if you're waiting for a contractor or you're waiting for a part, communicate with that household so they know, A, you're important to us, and B, we're working to get this done. It's never a good idea to say, you broke it, you fixed it. That's not what we do in this industry. We provide housing that is fit to live in, so it's our responsibility to make the repair.
When it comes to repairs, a standard lease will have a line in it stating that the property is to be maintained in good condition and that the tenant is obligated under the lease to report any problems with maintenance or any malfunctioning equipment.
Communicate with tenants in a way that is respectful and responsive to their concerns, especially in the area of repairs and maintenance. Keep the lines of communication open so there is no fear about reporting.
Property managers tend to have their own style of management or oversight of the asset. Each has their expectation on how and when reporting should be done. Some choose to have it written, some choose to have voicemail. Either way, it's good for the property manager to be absolutely clear to the residents moving in what the expectation is and how they want things reported. Therefore, there will be no discrepancies or no misunderstandings on how things get done and what the process is.
Sometimes tenants get scared that if their son or daughter, whoever, throws a baseball or football through one of the windows, you want to make that clear to the tenant that you want to know about that. Okay, we're not gonna come down and you don't want to drop the hammer and be a complete jerk to them, because then they won't want to call you. You want to act professional. That stuff happens, you know. My kids have done that in my own house. So you want to make sure, hey, you know what, if something does happen and it was not my fault, don't be afraid to call me, because we want, you want to let them know you want to know about it. So they're going to get the bill for that ball through the window, but at least they have, you have a good enough relationship. That's when you know you have a really good relationship. If they can call you when their children break something, or if they do something that is on accident, but you just feel like they can't call you. That's not good. You want them to feel like they can call you.
Sometimes emergency repairs will need an immediate response and will require the property owner to enter the unit without talking with the tenant.
The issues of when a landlord can or should enter a unit is one that comes up really frequently, because the tenant thinks this is my home, and rightly so, and so it no longer is the landlord's home and they can't come and go freely. The landlord, on the other hand, knows this is my asset. I need to know what's going on in it. I need to come in and do repairs. I need to be able to enter at some time. So you have kind of differing interests there. What the law requires is a landlord enters only for reasonable purposes and with reasonable notice. And the law, the state law, defines some reasonable purposes. You can enter for maintenance. You can enter for safety if you think that there's a safety issue with a tenant, or even if there's a pet inside that you think is abandoned or neglected. You can enter for emergencies. What it doesn't define, unfortunately, is it doesn't define what's reasonable notice. It just says you enter for a reasonable purpose upon reasonable notice. I've seen some leases where landlords say that, we will enter and we will give you 24 hours notice before we do enter to do those things, maintenance or inspections, or if the city inspector comes, the landlord has to let the city inspector in. The law requires that. If you don't put it in the lease, then I think you ought to think about at least 24 hours, maybe 48 hours to give people notice, because this is where they live, and having somebody just show up at your door saying, I need to come in now, is probably not convenient. You wouldn't want that to happen to you. If you have an emergency, then you can enter. If water is running under the door, you obviously need to go in and see what's happening. If you think that someone's in danger, you obviously have to go in. If you think that someone's in danger, you might necessarily want police or fire to enter first. If you enter and no one's home and you haven't given notice, you have to leave notice that you were there. You have to disclose that you were there. You have to put something in writing that said, we didn't give you notice, we were in today because the city shut the water off and we had to bleed the lines in the heating system, and we had to come in today and do it. We were here at 3 o'clock. And you leave that in a conspicuous place inside the unit so that people, when they come home and they have this vague feeling that somebody's been here, or you had to move furniture or something, they know someone was there and they know it was you.
There are various types of inspections, depending on your local city ordinances, or if you participate in a subsidy program. This next segment will address what inspectors look for and common reasons why a unit may fail an inspection.
Well, there's a lot of inspections that go on nowadays. The city inspections are one of them. They are more orientated toward the thing for rental licensing, a smoke detector in the bedroom, and more code-orientated things. The inspections that would occur for a housing authority would be called housing quality standards. Those inspections would entail making sure that everything works and in decent condition.
Housing quality standards were established so that it would be universal across the United States. And it's the same code, and then each housing authority has its own administrative policy, and we change and upgrade that policy each and every year based on what we feel our needs are. But the intent, I believe, with HUD in establishing housing quality standards was so that it would be universal.
In the inspection process, I always recommend that a landlord would go through the property, make sure that all of the outlet plates are in place, all the window screens are in good condition and good repair, and all the windows lock, all the appliances are in place in working condition, all of the utilities are on, and that smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are in place and in working condition.
The top 3 to 5 reasons why a unit would fail an inspection, you would be shocked because they're really actually minor things. Non-working smoke detector, just the battery doesn't work. Light switch cover missing, reverse polarity in the outlet, or ungrounded outlet, leaky sink, trip hazards, a stairway where the concrete is crumbling, and every time you walk to the door you trip. You don't think about it until you trip. Well, we think about it before you trip, because we don't want to be on the receiving end of a lawsuit. We don't want anyone to get hurt. And again, we're always thinking preventive. That's how we think anyway. And we try to teach our families and the owners to think that way too.
Lead paint is still found in homes built prior to 1978. It is the responsibility of the property owner to provide information to tenants on lead paint hazards as outlined by the Environmental Protection Agency. Property owners must also disclose any knowledge about the presence of lead paint and reports of lead abatement. Housing built before 1978 may contain lead-based paint. Lead from paint, paint chips, and dust can pose health hazards if not managed properly. Lead exposure is especially harmful to young children and pregnant women. Before renting pre-1978 housing, property owners must disclose the presence of known lead-based paint and/or lead-based paint hazards in the dwelling. Renters must also receive a federally approved pamphlet on lead poisoning prevention.
Lead paint is a hazard because over time it deteriorates and turns into lead dust, which can easily get on kids' hands, and they can put their hands in their mouth and ingest the lead. And even at low levels, children are at risk of having permanent brain damage and learning disabilities and behavioral problems as a result of being exposed. The lead disclosure rule that requires landlords to give their potential tenants a packet called Protect Your Family from Lead in the Home when they're leasing up a unit, and they're also required to disclose if they know if there's lead paint or not in the property. And if they do know, then they have to provide the testing results that show where the lead paint is.
If the owner does not know how to properly contain the lead, it does create a bigger problem and a bigger hazard because the dust gets everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And I show pictures in our briefing class to explain to families that many times we'll see owners who will just grab a bucket of paint and just slap a coat of paint on it, and they think that that's going to eliminate the hazard. It doesn't. It just puts a Band-Aid on it for a very temporary period of time, especially in Minnesota, because of the elements.
The Environmental Protection Agency has created regulations on safe work practices regarding lead abatement. These practices have been established to prevent exposure to lead while work is being done. If a property owner wants to take care of a lead problem themselves, there are 4 steps to become certified to do the work.
The first step is for the rental property owner to get the proper training, which is an 8-hour class that's offered by various providers around the metro area and outstate. The second step is that they have to send a certification application and a fee to the EPA to become a certified firm. The third step is to provide the occupants of the rental unit with a pamphlet called Renovate Right to notify them of the potential lead hazards. And finally, the fourth step is to undertake the work in a lead-safe manner to prevent any lead exposure.
In summary, ongoing maintenance, repairs, and inspections are an important part of being a property owner. It's important for you to create procedures for tenants to report repairs and encourage ongoing communication. Providing regular, ongoing maintenance and needed repairs will contribute to you being a successful property owner.